I was putting on my jacket, getting ready to head to what my son Michael called an important financial planning meeting, when my phone buzzed. It was Frank Peterson, my old college buddy and retired attorney. We hadn't talked in months. "Frank, this is unexpected," I said, balancing the phone against my shoulder as I searched for my car keys. "Bob, where are you right now?" His voice had that edge I remembered from his courtroom days, urgent but controlled. "Just heading out. Michael set up a meeting with some financial advisor. Says it's time I get my estate organized properly now that I'm alone. My wife Sarah had passed 2 years ago, and I'd been managing fine on my own, but Michael had been insistent lately. Listen to me very carefully." Frank's tone made me stop mid-search. "Don't sign anything at that meeting. Not a single piece of paper. Do you understand me?" My hand froze on my keys. "What? Why would you?" "I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store yesterday." Jennifer was Michael's wife. "Bob." "She was talking on her phone about finally getting control, and the old man won't know what hit him. She mentioned today's date specifically. The keys slipped from my fingers and clattered on the kitchen counter." "That doesn't make sense. This is just about organizing my finances." "Is it?" Frank paused. "Have you noticed anything unusual with Michael lately? Asking about your assets? Talking about nursing homes?" My mind raced back through recent conversations. 3 weeks ago, Michael had casually asked about my investment accounts. 2 weeks ago, he'd sent me brochures for luxury senior living communities. Last week, he'd suggested I might be forgetting things when I'd simply misplaced my reading glasses. "Bob? You still there?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "Yeah, I'm here. What should I do? Play along? Go to the meeting? But don't commit to anything. Tell them you need time to review with your own attorney. Then call me immediately after. We need to talk." I hung up, my heart pounding. This couldn't be right. Michael was my son. We'd had our differences over the years. Sure. But this? Planning something behind my back? I drove to the address Michael had given me, a sleek office building downtown I'd never been to before. The receptionist directed me to conference room B on the 3rd floor. As I rode the elevator up, I tried to calm the knot in my stomach. Maybe Frank was wrong. Maybe this was legitimate. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Michael was already there, wearing his expensive suit, the one Jennifer had bought him last Christmas that I knew they couldn't afford on his sales manager salary. Next to him sat a man in his 50s with slicked-back hair and an unnaturally white smile. "Dad!" "Right on time." Michael stood, but didn't come around the table to greet me. "This is Mr. Harrison Blake, the financial advisor I told you about." Blake extended his hand. His grip was too firm, too practiced. "Mr. Thornton, pleasure to meet you. Michael has told me so much about you. Please, have a seat." I sat across from them, noticing the neat stack of folders in front of Blake's position. "So, what's this all about?" "Well, Mr. Thornton, may I call you Robert? Bob is fine." "Bob, then. Michael has expressed some concerns about your current financial situation. At your age, it's crucial to have proper safeguards in place." "I'm 67, not 90, I said, keeping my tone light, still pretty sharp. Michael leaned forward. "Dad, nobody's saying you're not. But Mom's death was hard on you. We've noticed you've been a little scattered lately." "Scattered?" "The glasses incident." Jennifer's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't heard her come in. She settled into the chair next to Michael, placing her designer handbag, another thing they couldn't afford, on the table. "And last month, when you forgot about our dinner plans, I hadn't forgotten." They'd never confirmed the date, but I said nothing. Blake opened the top folder. "What we're proposing is a comprehensive estate plan that protects your assets and ensures your care as you age. Michael, as your only child, would hold power of attorney, which would allow him to make financial and medical decisions on your behalf should you become incapacitated." "Should I become incapacitated?" I repeated. "I'm in perfect health. Had my physical last month. Doctor said I have the blood pressure of a man 20 years younger. That's wonderful, Blake said smoothly. But these things can change quickly at your age. It's better to have everything in place now. He slid a document across the table. It was titled Durable Power of Attorney. My name was already typed in. Now, if you'll just sign here, and initial here. Blake produced a expensive-looking pen. I picked up the document, pretending to read it carefully. Frank's warning echoed in my mind. The legal jargon was dense, but I caught phrases that made my blood run cold. Irrevocable. Immediate effect. Full authority over all assets and accounts. This gives Michael access to everything immediately, I said. Well, yes, but only to help you. And I can't revoke it? Blake's smile flickered. It's structured this way, to prevent confusion. My mental state is fine. Dad. Michael's voice had an edge now. We're trying to help you. You're living alone in that big house. Don't you think it might be time to consider something easier to manage? Like what? Jennifer pulled out a glossy brochure from her bag. We've been looking at some wonderful communities. Meadowbrook Senior Living has amazing amenities. 24-hour nursing care, social activities, chef-prepared meals. I took the brochure. The starting price was $15,000 a month. That's a nursing home, I said flatly. It's assisted living, Jennifer corrected. Very different. And your house, once sold, would easily cover several years there, especially in the current market. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. They wanted my house, the 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street that Sarah and I had bought 30 years ago, that was now worth close to $800,000 according to recent comparisons. The house I'd paid off 15 years ago. The house with no mortgage, no debt. What about my investments? I asked, watching their faces. Michael exchanged a glance with Jennifer. Those could be liquidated to provide additional security. Blake has some conservative funds he recommends that would give you steady income. I'd bet my last dollar those conservative funds would come with hefty management fees that somehow benefited the three of them. This is a lot to take in, I said, setting down the pen I hadn't realized I was holding. I need time to think about it. Review it with my own attorney. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dad, we've already paid Blake for his time, Michael said. This is time sensitive. We need to get things in order now. Why the rush? Because Jennifer started, but Michael cut her off. Because we care about you. We don't want you to end up like Ed Morrison. Ed Morrison was a neighbor who'd had a stroke last year. His kids had fought over his estate for months, while he languished in a state facility. Ed Morrison didn't have his affairs in order, I said. I do. I have a will. I have beneficiaries on my accounts. Everything is set up. But who manages things if you can't? Blake pressed. I'll figure that out with my own lawyer, Frank Peterson. You might know him, he practiced estate law for 40 years before retiring. I watched Michael's jaw tighten. You've been talking to Frank? He's an old friend. He's also been out of practice for 5 years. Dad, these are important decisions that need current expertise. I stood up, gathering my jacket. Nevertheless, I'm not signing anything today. Thank you for your time, Mr. Blake. Mr. Thornton, please reconsider, Blake began, but I was already heading for the door. Bob, wait. Michael caught up with me in the hallway. What's gotten into you? We're trying to help. I turned to face my son. Really looked at him. When had the lines around his eyes gotten so hard? When had his smile become so calculating? Help me. Or help yourselves. That's not fair. Jennifer and I have been worried sick about you rattling around in that big house alone. We just want what's best for you. Then let me decide what's best for me. I left him standing there and drove home in a daze. Once there, I called Frank immediately. How'd it go? He asked. I told him everything, the power of attorney, the nursing home brochure, the talk of selling my house and liquidating my investments. Frank was quiet for a long moment. Bob, I hate to say this, but I think your son is trying to take control of your assets. That power of attorney would give him immediate access to everything. And if he could get you declared incompetent, even temporarily, he could make moves you couldn't reverse. But why? He has a good job? A nice house? Does he? Or is that what he's showing you? Over the next hour, Frank walked me through some research. It turned out Michael's company had laid off a third of their sales team 6 months ago. His house, which I'd helped them buy 10 years ago with a substantial down payment, had been refinanced twice in the past 3 years. And Jennifer's credit card debt, according to public records from a lawsuit she'd lost last year, was over $60,000. They were drowning. And they saw me, my paid-off house, my retirement accounts, my life insurance policy, as a life raft. What do I do? I asked Frank. We document everything. And we wait. They'll make another move, they have to. They're probably in too deep to back off now. When they do, we'll be ready. The next move came 2 days later. Michael called, his voice tight and controlled. Dad, we need to talk. Can I come over? Of course. He arrived an hour later, alone. Jennifer, he said, was at work. We sat in my living room, the room where I'd taught him to tie his shoes, where we'd celebrated his high school graduation, where Sarah and I had told him we were proud of him when he got his first real job. I'm worried about you, he began. The other day, walking out like that, not thinking clearly about your future. It's not like you. I was thinking very clearly. Were you? He leaned forward. Dad, I didn't want to bring this up, but there have been other incidents. Last month, you called me 3 times in one day asking the same question. I never called you 3 times in one day. You did. You don't remember, which is exactly my point. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through it. See? 3 calls, all on the 15th. I looked at the screen. He was right, 3 calls from my number, but I had no memory of making them. Something felt wrong about it, but I couldn't put my finger on what. And Jennifer mentioned you seemed confused at Thanksgiving. Couldn't remember her sister's name. Jennifer's sister is named Amanda. I've known her for 10 years. Her name is Rebecca. Was it? Michael must have seen the doubt in my face, because his expression softened, or maybe it was just a good imitation of softness. Dad, I love you. I don't want to see you hurt or taken advantage of. Let me help you. Sign the power of attorney. We'll make sure you're taken care of. I need more time. We don't have time. The mask slipped, just for a second, and I saw real desperation underneath. After he left, I sat in the darkening living room, doubting everything. Was I forgetting things? Was my mind going? Sarah used to handle so many details. Maybe without her, I was slipping. Then my phone rang. It was my neighbor, Margaret Chen, from across the street. Bob, I hope I'm not bothering you, but I saw your son leave. Is everything okay? He looked upset. We had a disagreement. Oh, well, I wanted to ask you something. The other day, the 15th. I think Michael stopped by when you were out. At least, I saw him coming down your front steps. Did he mention it? My blood went cold. No. No. Oh, well, maybe it was nothing. Probably just dropped something off for you. After we hung up, I checked my front door carefully. No scratches on the lock, but Michael had a spare key from when he'd helped me after Sarah's funeral. If he'd come in while I was out, I went to my home office. My phone records were filed neatly in the drawer where I always kept them. I pulled out January's statement and scanned down to the 15th. No calls to Michael. Not one, let alone 3. But there on his phone screen, plain as day, had been my number. He'd spoofed it. Somehow, he'd created fake calls from my number to build a case that I was confused, forgetful, losing my mind. I called Frank again. He's building a pattern, Frank said grimly, creating evidence of incompetence. Bob, this is more serious than I thought. We need to act fast. What do I do? First, we get you properly protected. I'm coming out of retirement for this. We're going to create an ironclad estate plan the right way. Then we're going to set a trap. Over the next week, I worked with Frank to put my affairs truly in order. A revocable living trust that protected my assets. A healthcare directive naming Frank, not Michael, as my medical decision maker, documentation of all my accounts and properties. And then we waited. The call came on a Friday evening. Michael, sounding harried. Dad, I need you to meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. There's someone I want you to talk to. Who? A doctor. Someone who specializes in cognitive decline. Just a consultation. Nothing serious. My heart sank. This was it. The next step. Get a doctor to declare me incompetent. All right, I said. Where? He gave me an address, a medical office on the north side of town. That night, I barely slept. Frank and I had planned carefully, but I was still terrified. This was my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, sent to college. How had we come to this? At 9:45 the next morning, I pulled into the medical building's parking lot. Frank was already there, in his car, along with a court reporter he'd hired. You ready? Frank asked. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was. Inside, Michael was waiting with Jennifer and a man in a white coat who introduced himself as Dr. Raymond Carlisle. Mr. Thornton, thank you for coming, Dr. Carlisle said. Your son has expressed some concerns about your cognitive function. I'd like to run a few simple tests. What kind of tests? Memory recall, basic reasoning, that sort of thing. Nothing invasive. I sat down. For the next 20 minutes, Dr. Carlisle asked me questions. What year was it? Who was the president? Count backwards from 100 by sevens. Remember these 3 words and repeat them back later. I answered everything correctly. I watched disappointment flicker across Michael's face. Well, Mr. Thornton, your cognitive function appears quite normal, Dr. Carlisle said, making notes. That's good to hear, I said. Then I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. Just to be clear, doctor, did my son mention that he's been creating fake phone records to suggest I'm making confused, repetitive calls? The room went dead silent. What? Dr. Carlisle looked between me and Michael. I have documentation that on January 15th, my son accessed my home without my knowledge and created false evidence of phone calls I never made. Dad, that's ridiculous, Michael started. Is it? I pulled out my phone records. These are my actual call logs from that day. 0 calls to Michael. Yet he showed me his phone with 3 calls from my number. That's call spoofing, doctor. A deliberate attempt to create a false pattern of cognitive decline. Jennifer stood up. This is absurd. Michael, we don't have to listen to this. No, but the court will. Frank entered the room, followed by the court reporter. Robert Thornton has filed for a restraining order against Michael Thornton and Jennifer Thornton for attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Michael's face went white. Court? Dad, what are you doing? Protecting myself, I said, and my voice shook despite my best efforts to stay calm. From my own son. The next hour was a blur. Frank presented evidence, the spoofed calls, the predatory power of attorney, Michael's financial troubles, Jennifer's debts, the pattern of manipulation, the attempted isolation. Dr. Carlisle, horrified, confirmed he'd been contacted by Michael specifically to evaluate me for incompetence, with Michael providing a history of cognitive decline that clearly didn't exist. I didn't know, Dr. Carlisle kept saying. I had no idea this was fraudulent. Finally, Michael broke down. We're losing everything, he said, his voice cracking. The house is in foreclosure. Jennifer's creditors are threatening to sue. We just thought if we could access your assets. Just for a while. Just to get back on our feet. So, you decided to rob me? I asked. To lock me away in a nursing home and take everything Sarah and I worked our entire lives to build? We weren't going to rob you. We were going to take care of you. In a facility that cost $15,000 a month, eating up my savings while you lived in my house, spent my money, sold off my investments. Frank's voice was ice. Jennifer was crying. We didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, I said. You could have come to me honestly, asked for help. Instead, you tried to destroy me. The legal fallout took months. Frank helped me get a protective order. Michael and Jennifer were required to stay at least 100 yards away. They lost their house eventually. declared bankruptcy. I heard through neighbors they'd moved to another state, starting over with nothing. Dr. Carlisle, shaken by how close he'd come to being part of elder abuse, became an advocate for better screening processes for competency evaluations. As for me, I still live in my house on Maple Street. Frank stops by once a week for coffee. Margaret Chen checks in on me regularly. I've joined a support group for seniors who've experienced financial exploitation by family members. There are more of us than you'd think. Sometimes I look at the photos on my mantle. Michael as a boy, grinning gap-toothed in his Little League uniform. Michael at his wedding, looking so happy. Michael and Sarah laughing together at some family joke I can't quite remember. I grieve for that boy. For the son I thought I had. For the relationship we'll never have. But I don't regret protecting myself. Because here's what I learned. Love doesn't mean letting people destroy you. Real love means setting boundaries. And sometimes, the hardest boundary to set is with your own child. I got a letter from Michael 3 months ago. No return address. Postmarked from Arizona. It was short. Dad, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you probably can't forgive me. I don't blame you. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what we tried to do to you. And I'm ashamed. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. I hope someday I can be the person you raised me to be. Love, Michael. I keep that letter in my desk drawer. Some days I think about responding. Most days I don't. Because the truth is, I am safe now. I am protected. And at 67, living alone but not lonely, I'm finally at peace. That's worth more than any reconciliation built on quicksand. If you're going through something similar, if your family is pressuring you about your finances, talking about your declining abilities, pushing for control, please talk to someone, a lawyer, a friend, a counselor. Don't wait until it's too late. I almost did. I almost signed those papers. I almost let them win. But Frank's phone call saved me. And maybe sharing my story can save someone else. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself. And remember, you don't owe anyone access to your life, your money, or your autonomy. Not even family. Especially not family who sees you as an asset rather than a person. That's my story. That's how my son tried to take everything from me, and how I took back control. I'm Bob Thornton. I'm 67 years old. My mind is sharp, my health is good, and my future is my own. And that's exactly how it's going to stay.